friends, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing / wrapping up my 2024 predictions and going into my 2025 predictions. So let's just kind of hop into it. But if you like this kind of video or you want to go ahead and check out my other videos regarding my 2024 predictions and the other reviews that I have, hit like, subscribe, and follow. I'll also leave a link to the playlist down below so you can see the predictions and my link to my reviews. So you can take a look at all the reviews that I've done of all my predictions. Last year, I did a total of, I think I had 8 predictions on that list, 4 backlist, and then 4 new releases, yeah. And I will say that I have read all but 2 books on those predictions lists, so go me. But I think next year I'll probably just do 3 from each because I feel like 3 is a good number for me to hit without going too much into weird territory like forgetting to read a book or not being able to read a book, all that stuff. Starting off with the 2024 releases that I was able to read to, I'm going to start off with the one that I didn't get a chance to get to, and that is Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright. This is an adult, I think, gothic novel. It's a queer fantasy horror following Shawn, who's been trying to perfect her blood magic. She assassinates her father to protect their brother and takes her place as the head of the family, and it kind of goes from there. I don't want to give off too much because I realize I don't really know too much about it. But I had high hopes for this. It's the person who wrote it is a Filipino author, and it's horror and it's fantasy and it's queer. But I've just heard a lot of mixed things about the book so far. So I think I've pushed it a little bit lower on the will I or won't I read it list. So hopefully I'll get a chance to read it, but I'm hoping that I won't fall into the trap that everyone else has and has given it a 2 so far. Moving on to the physical books that I own from 2024 releases, the first one is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faizal. This is a King Arthur retelling. It's a YA fantasy novel following Arthur Casimir, who runs a tea house during the day and a blood house for vampires during the night. When her tea house is put on sale, basically, she has to find out, she basically sets together a team of people who may or may not want to be together in the team and who have their own different kind of values and goals and morals and whatnot, and tries to pull off a heist to be able to win her tea house back. I have a full-length review of this book. I will say that about basically all of these books. So I'll try to leave the links to the reviews down below if you guys need to take a look at them. But I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. I like the Arthur retelling. I like the vampiric aspect of it. It was super fun. Just really a good read, and I am interested to see how Hafsa Faizal will wrap it up at the end of the duology, which is steeping in blood. So super excited for that. One on my 2024 predictions is, or at least my new releases, is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is an adult paranormal romance between Misery, who is a vampire, and some werewolf, I don't remember his name, Lo, who have to get married to form an alliance together in order to find, bind the vampires and the werewolves together and ensure they never hurt each other again. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. There was something missing about the book. I wish there was more to the novel, a little bit more depth than the filler bits that we got, but it was enjoyable. It was a nice paranormal romance to dip my toes back into, a genre that I really do love. The next one I'm currently reading and will have a review of later in the month because I have to wrap up my 2024 stuff, obviously, but that is Immortal Dark by Tiges Germa. This is a YA dark academia book following a young girl whose sister goes missing, so she infiltrates this school full of vampires and humans, trying to win her, I guess, position in this society. It's dark academia, it's vampires, and it's black vampires mainly. There's a lot of I think African lore embedded into this story. My thoughts on it so far, it's interesting. I like lore behind vampires within this book. My biggest thing is that the chapter breakdown right now is just not it. Each chapter is about 2 to 3, maybe 5 pages max, and it feels like the chapter should have been a scene within a larger chapter, and then when it transitions to a completely different scene with a different tone and different point, you kind of get a little bit whiplashy. And with the whiplashy, I find myself really confused as to how we got to this position, the transition behind it, and obviously honestly the timeline of the story, because the chapters are so short, it doesn't tell us when in the week we are, if we are in a new day. You just kind of find out or have to piece it together if it doesn't explicitly say Kidan woke up, or the next day, or in the evening. And it's just, I'll talk more about it when I finish the book, but I'm halfway through and I'm both intrigued and also not interested. Moving on to the backlisted books that I was hoping to read in 2024. I'll start off with the one I didn't get a chance to read, but that is Modern Divination by Isabel Agajanian. I don't remember too much about this book. I think it's YA, something about witches. It sounded really fun when I did it, when I like read through it, but obviously I haven't been interested enough to look for it. So, and then moving on to a book that I don't own quite yet. I read it on Kindle Unlimited, but that is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. I ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. It is a Dracula retelling set, or I guess following one of the many wives of Dracula. It's queer, it's written in second person, and I just found it to be a beautiful, beautiful piece of writing. I will have a full-length review of it, again, out later this month, just to wrap up my predictions of 2024, but it's probably one of my favorites and will make an appearance in another video. Moving on to Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. This is an adult gothic novel set in, I think, revolutionary 1840s Mexico. Nena is a curandera, or is trying to be a curandera for her ranchero, but she's struggling to be more than just a face to be sold off to strengthen the bonds between each ranch. Then we have Nestor, who is a vaquero, or a cowboy basically, who ran away after Nena was attacked when they were little. These two were childhood friends, in love with each other, and when a vampire attacks Nena, the two of them are separated for about, I think, almost a decade. Nestor comes back and is surprised to see Nena still alive, but there might not be a chance of reunion because there are vampires that are lurking within the land at night. So they have to find a way to survive through the night to be able to even start to forgive each other or have these talks. I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I like the concept. I just wish the vampires were more present, and I feel like it got a little heavy-handed with the messaging behind it, and it kind of made the big bad evil a little bit faceless to me, which kind of took away from the horror of it all. I talk all about that in my review, so. And the last backlist 2024 prediction is Daphne by Rebecca Du Maurier. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. This is a gothic novel following an unnamed narrator who kind of falls head over heels for this widowed man and marries him all of a sudden, and the two of them go back to his home place. I think, what is it, Manderley? Yeah, in Manderley, only for her to find that his first wife, Rebecca, still kind of haunts the halls of this house in her own way. I love this book. I have a review of. I'm super stoked to read more of Daphne Du Maurier's books. It's so much fun, and I can see why Daphne Du Maurier is like a point in gothic literature for the way she wrote this book. It was just so good. Moving on to my 2025 predictions. If you are a little new here and haven't seen my 2024 predictions or my 2023 predictions, this year I will be choosing 6 books, 3 2025 releases, and 3 backlisted books that I've been meaning to get to but haven't had a chance to read within the time frame of 2025 and see if I like them or not. The first time I did this, I ended up doing vlogs, and I kind of hated it because I felt pressured to read the books with a certain amount, and sometimes I didn't feel like I was giving the books enough time to really like soak up and enjoy them. Last year I did book reviews, which I really enjoyed more. So maybe this year, depending on how it goes, because one of the books is an anthology series and the other one's a shorter book. So depending on how it goes, I might do a mixture of vlogs and reviews, so you guys can keep track of whether or not I am staying on top of this. Let's start off with the 2025 releases that I'm actually kind of excited for. The first one is Sunrise and Reaping by Suzanne Collins. My sister and I are really excited for this book. It follows Hamish Abernathy during the Porter Quell, where twice as many tributes have been picked. We've only heard of Hamish's side of the story in bits during obviously the books and what Katniss learns about him, but I'm super excited for this. I'm really intrigued to see Hamish as a younger man before his alcoholism took over and before he had to grieve so many loss of lives. So I'm really intrigued to see Hamish as a young spunky person and see how much he saw himself in Katniss, and it'll be a really interesting time. The next one, it's not as serious, but it is very serious, and that is Wings of Starlight by Allison Saft. I'm a Pixie Hollow girly. I had the dolls when I was younger, like the little ones, when the Pixie Hollow like site actually went live. I read the Pixie Hollow books when I got the chance to get to them. Such fond memories of this. I even had the Queen Clarion, like the original, I'll throw a picture of her, the original Queen Clarion doll with her little pink dress and her beautiful blonde hair before this one. But this is a YA novel about Queen Clarion and her falling in love with the Winter King. We got a little hint of it in Secret of the Wings in the movie, but here we get to read all about what happened and how their love bloomed and how it fell apart, and it's just gonna be such a good time. You have no idea. This last book, I really struggled to pick a book that I thought I could really just enjoy, because I wanted something. I thought about putting a Shadowhunter book in there because I know the Shadowhunter book's going to be there. I thought about putting in the Ragpicker King, but I just wanted to go against my norm of like putting a book from an author that I know. And that is A Treachery of Swans by A.B. Poranek. This is a retelling of the Swan Lake, a queer retelling. I think it's even gothic. Yeah, it's a queer YA gothic retelling of Swan Lake following Odile, who has been raised by a sorcerer and has prepared her entire life for the heist of a lifetime. When the king is unexpectedly murdered, she is forced to recruit the help of Marie Daudet, which is the real princess, and the two begin to unravel a web of lies and deceit. And soon Odile has to decide whether or not she chooses her kingdom or the girl she's falling in love with. This just sounds absolutely gorgeous, and I love Swan Lake. Easily love Swan Lake. Swan Lake just sounds like right up my alley. I love the Barbie Swan Lake. I love all iterations of Swan Lake. So I'm really excited for this book specifically. I don't think I've told you guys what the... Moving on to the backlist. And some of these backlists are like kind of like I've had it on my backlist for a while, and some of them are a little newer. But the first one's been on my want to read forever, and that is Thousand Ships by Natalie Haynes. I read The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker, which is a retelling of the Trojan War through Briseis's eyes. I had issues with that one just because I felt like it felt like a lot of things were being told to me by Briseis, and there was like no real agency behind it. This I've heard really good things about since its release. I even have Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes, even though I don't know if I'm going to like her retelling. But this is a retelling of the Trojan women whose fate lies to the Greeks thanks to Achilles. So I believe this follows, yeah, but it looks like it follows the women that were involved in the Trojan War. So Calliope, Circe, Thetis, what's her name, Athena, just all of them. So I'm really intrigued to see how this one differs from Silence of the Girls, and hopefully I will like it more than Silence of the Girls. The next one is an anthology series. I've seen this and it just looks really, really, really good, but that is Never Whistle at Night, which is edited by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Als Jr. This is a horror, like an indigenous, horror, I don't know which one goes first, indigenous horror anthology. Basically, it kind of talks about, it like goes off the basis, the indigenous like belief that you should never whistle at night because whistling at night invites evil entities to come to your location and follow you home. So I'm super excited about this one. I got it for Christmas. And I'm really excited to read this book because it's been on my list for a while, and I haven't read an anthology series in a hot minute, I believe. And the last one on my backlist, predictions for 2025 and 2025 predictions in general. I feel like that was a Christmas present, and that is What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I have heard a lot of things about T. Kingfisher as a writer, so I'm going into this with a lot of hopes. My friend read this and thought that it would be a perfect fit for me. It is basically a reimagining of Poe's and the Fall of the House of Usher. I think I need to reread the short story before I dive into this one because it's been a while since I've read the short story, and I recently watched the Fall of the House of Usher, so things tend to get a little messy there. But I'm really excited to read this. I've heard a lot of good things about this author, so I'm super stoked to get to this. But that is it for my wrap up of my 2024 predictions. Starting off my 2025 predictions. If you want to keep seeing what I think about these books as the year progresses, hit like, subscribe, and comment. But until next time, stay safe, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.